Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Reading from Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 1, chapter number 10, entitled Departure of Lord Krishna for Dwaraka. Verse number 5. Okay. Hopefully this will stand. Nadyaha Samudra Girayaha Nadyaha Samudra Girayaha Nadyaha Samudra Girayaha Savanaspati Virudaha Savanaspati Virudaha Savanaspati Virudaha Phalanti Oshadhayaha Sarvaha Phalantyoshadhayas Sarvaha Phalantyoshadhayas Sarvaha Kamam Anvruto Tasya Vai Kamam Anvruto Tasya Vai Kamam Anvruto Tasya Vai Nadya Samudra Girayaha Savanaspati Virudaha Phalantyoshadhayas Sarvaha Kamam Anvruto Tasya Vai Nadya Samudra Girayaha Savanaspati Virudaha Phalantyoshadhayas Sarvaha Kamam Anvruto Tasya Vai Matajis. Nadyaha, rivers. Samudraha, oceans. Girayaha, hills and mountains. Savanaspati, vegetables. Virudaha, creepers. Phalanti, active. Oshadayaha, drugs. Sarvaha, all. Kamam, necessities. Anvrutu, seasonal. Tasya, for the king. Vai, certainly. Translation and purport by His Divine Grace Srila Prabhupada. The rivers, oceans, hills, mountains, forests, creepers and active drugs in every season paid their tax quota to the king in profusion. Kindly repeat. The rivers, oceans, hills, mountains, forests, creepers, and active drugs in every season paid their tax quota to the king in profusion. Purport by Srila Prabhupada. Since Maharaj Yudhishthira was under the protection of the Ajita, the infallible Lord, as above mentioned, the property of the Lord, namely the rivers, oceans, hills, forests, etc., were all pleased, and they used to supply their respective quota of taxation to the king. The secret to success is to take refuge under the protection of the Supreme Lord. Without his sanction, nothing can be possible. To make economic development by our own endeavors on the strength of tools and machinery is not all. The sanction of the Supreme Lord must be there. Otherwise, despite all instrumental arrangements, everything will be unsuccessful. The ultimate cause of success is the Daiva, or the Supreme. Kings like Maharaj Yudhishthira knew perfectly well that the king is the agent of the Supreme Lord to look after the welfare of the mass of people. Actually, the state belongs to the Supreme Lord. The rivers, the oceans, the forests, the hills, drugs, etc. are not creations of man. They are all creations of the Supreme Lord, and the living being is allowed to make use of the property of the Lord for the service of the Lord. Today's slogan is that everything is for the people, and therefore the government is for the people and by the people. But to produce a new species of humanity at the present moment, on the basis of philosophy and religion, on the basis of justice and peace, on the basis of God consciousness and perfection of human life, the ideology of godly communism, the world has again to follow in the footsteps of kings like Maharaj Yudhishthira or Parikshit. There is enough of everything by the will of the Lord, and we can make proper use of things to live comfortably without any enmity between men or animal and man or nature. Everywhere, the control of the Lord is there, and if the Lord is pleased, every part of nature will be pleased. The river will flow profusely to fertilize the land. The oceans will supply sufficient quantity of minerals, pearls, and jewels. The forest will supply sufficient wood, drugs, and vegetables, and the seasonal changes will effectively help produce fruits and flowers in profuse quantity. The artificial way of living, depending on factories and tools, can render so-called happiness only to a limited number at the cost of millions. Since the energy of the mass of people is engaged in factory production, the natural products are being hampered, and for this, the mass is unhappy. Without being educated properly, the mass of people are following the footsteps of the vested interest by exploiting natural reserve, and therefore, there is acute competition between individual and individual and nation and nation. There is no control by the trained agent of the Lord. We must look into the defects of the modern civilization by comparison here, and should follow in the footsteps of Maharaj Yudhishthira to cleanse man and wipe out anachronisms. Thus ends the Bhaktivedanta purport. Om Jnanatimirandhasya Jnananjanashalakaya Chakshurunmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. Nama Om Vishnupadaya Krishna Preshtaya Bhutale Srimate Bhaktivedanta Swaminiti Namine. Namaste Saraswate Deve Gauravani Pracharine Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Paschatya Deshatarine. Jaya Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Shri Vasadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda. Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. Mukam karoti vachalam pangum langayate girim Yat kripatamaham vande Sri Gurum Deenataranam. In the year 2005, I was given the service of shifting to Vrindavan, and we had to set up an Akshay Patra kitchen there, and there was a partially finished dome and Taurus building that had to be completed, and Vyompad Prabhu was already there at that time, and I had been assigned to assist him and to complete the kitchen and make it functional. So I went there in February of 2005, and we did a lot of things and managed to set up the Akshay Patra kitchen. At that time, it was operating out of a small shed, and we were feeding about 1,500 children from that small kitchen. So from the Taurus building, which was partially completed, we were supposed to shift the kitchen and scale up the program to feeding about 15,000-20,000 or about 30,000 meals every day. So it took us almost about 6 or 8 months or something like that to complete. And once that was completed, kitchen was shifted, it became functional, operational, everything was going well. Then Vyompad Prabhu wanted the temple also to be completed in the dome building. If any of you have visited Vrindavan Chandrodaya Mandir, you would have seen the old building. I think it's still standing. It will soon be dismantled. So until it is standing there, all the nostalgic memories we can enjoy. So in the dome, we started work on that, and the temple, altar, all those things were getting planned, designed, executed, all that was going on. Now, at that time, Chanchalapati Prabhu told that we should, the whole land, if you see at that time, the land in front of the temple building, it was, there were 3 trees there. One was a drumstick tree, another was a neem tree, and another was a bear tree. These 3 trees were there. Apart from that, nothing was there. And Vrindavan, very dusty, and during summer, whenever there is a andhi, there is a dust storm, it raises a lot of dust. So Vrindavan is like that. North India, typically very dusty. So Chanchalapati Prabhu said we should, make the place green, have some grass, have some plants, have some flowering trees and stuff like that. So we roped in a consultant, horticulture consultant from Delhi. He came, he visited the place. Then he suggested locally in Vrindavan, like Braj Kadamb, and then various other plants and trees which are local to Vrindavan, those kind of trees and plants to plant there and cultivate. So we started doing all that. Different kinds of trees, got them from different nurseries and planting them and putting manure, watering them and all that. So at that time our source of water was only the groundwater. And the groundwater we were pumping and we were watering all the plants. But after a week we would see all the grass, all the plants would become covered with a white powder. And after a few weeks, all the plants started withering away. They were all burning out. The water and the soil were both very saline. That white powder deposition was salt. Even construction also. We would, there in India it is all brick and mortar construction. So we would make the building, and when you construct the building with brick and mortar, you have to do curing with water. So we would spray water on the wall. Next day morning, the wall would have become white with all the powder deposition. It was so saline. And no plants could survive. So we again spoke to the horticulture consultant. He again came, he visited. Then we tried changing the manure and things like that. Didn't work. Again, we brought another set of plants, planted them. Again, they all got burnt out. Then the horticulture consultant got some expert geologist or something like that. He came, he saw, he studied, he took some samples of the earth, made some tests, and then came back and said, some intervention we have to do. So some lime and some chemicals and all those things mix, put it into the earth, mix it into the earth, and then put the plants. We tried that also. That also failed. So we were at a wit's end, what to do now? And Chanchalapati Prabhu, every time he would visit Vrindavan, he would look at me and say, what is this? I'm not seeing any greenery. What can I do? I'm not able to do anything. So, tried different things, nothing is working, and it was practically, it was not working. And actually that area, if you see, the place where our current temple is, it is called Sunrak Mangar. So I was looking at the place all around us. It is not only our place. For kilometers together, you see in that area, for kilometers together, not even one tree is seen. In our campus, 3 trees is a very big thing, very big greenery. It's like that. Kilometers together, no trees, and all through the year, we would get only the farmers around us, the agricultural fields, they would be able to take out only one crop, which is mustard, because mustard doesn't need much watering. And that also very sparse crop. It's not that they will get any big, harvest out of that. So then I was inquiring, then we found out that actually Sunrak had been the place where Kaliya Hrada had been there. So it was the residence of Kaliya. So in the Srimad Bhagavatam 10th canto, Krishna book also it is mentioned, for kilometers together where Kaliya was there, his poison had spread and there were no trees to be seen. Right? That's the description given. Actually, that was the fact. Even today, the Kaliya's poisonous effect in that area, it is spread everywhere. You cannot see trees for kilometers together. Plants will not grow. Whatever you do, nothing will happen. So you're thinking what to do. All Kaliya's influence. How we are very small, tiny compared to Kaliya. After 5,000 years, also his influence is still there. Anyway, we couldn't do anything. So by then, 2006, the temple got ready, in the dome area, and we carried out the installation. Radha Vrindavan Chandra DT were installed. Like you have beautiful Radha Damodar here, we had Radha Vrindavan Chandra there. And then we started seeing, after a few months, 6 months, 8 months, slowly things started changing. The plants which were finding it so tough to grow, slowly started growing. And that white powder that was coming, that slowly started reducing, diminishing. And after a few months, 8 months or within a year, about a year's time, we didn't do anything. Simply we left the plants and we couldn't do anything. Whatever is there, we were just watering and going along. And within about a year's time, the whole place became so green. Some visitors, they visited our place and they looked around and said, this doesn't look like Vrindavan, it looks like Switzerland. So once barren land became lush green and verdant. And today you go to Vrindavan Chandrodaya Mandir, we have a whole biodiversity park. It's like a forest. All kinds of birds, trees, plants, dense foliage we can see there. So actually if you see, that land is not fertile land. It is not capable of producing this kind of greenery, this kind of foliage. So how did it suddenly it become so green and so verdant, so fertile? For ages together, centuries together, thousands of years together, nobody could grow any plant there, no tree, no crop you could grow, nothing you could grow. Suddenly it has become full of greenery and verdant and lot of trees, plants, all kinds of flowering plants, roses, this, jasmine, all kinds of plants growing there. So that Kunti Maharani prays, which we will see in the later verses. When Krishna, this chapter is entitled Departure of Lord Krishna for Dwaraka. When Krishna, after the Hastinapura war, he was leaving, after the Kurukshetra war, he was leaving Hastinapura and going back to Dwaraka because Yudhishthira Maharaj had been enthroned, the Pandavas had got their rightful kingdom. So Krishna said, okay, I'll go back now. So at that time, Kunti Maharani offered wonderful prayers to Krishna. One of the things she says is that Vanadri Nadyudanvanto Hyedante Tava Vikshitaihi. So she says that the whole land around us is become verdant, it has become green. Supakvaushadi Virudaha, all kinds of Oshadaya herbs, Virudaha, all kinds of trees, plants, fruits, everything is flourishing in our kingdom. How is it flourishing? Why is it flourishing? Tava Vikshitaihi, because your glance, O Krishna, because of your transcendental glance, everything has started flourishing. So actually in Vrindavan, in our campus also, same thing happened. Until Radha Vrindavan Chandra came and set their glance, nothing was growing there. The moment Radha Vrindavan Chandra came, everything started becoming green and verdant and full of plants, trees, flowers, all kinds of greenery, all kinds of birds, everything started manifesting. So you see, we can go and do all kinds of interventions, putting chemicals, getting expert consultants, all that we can do. But no matter how much endeavor we put, unless Krishna sanctions, the earth will not produce greenery. This is the reality. So, in today's verse, the same thing is being stated. Nadyah samudra girayah savanaspati virudaha phalantyoshadayah sarvaha kamamanrutu tasyavai. During Yudhishthira Maharaj's reign, the rivers, oceans, hills, mountains, forests, creepers and active drugs in every season paid their quota to the king in profusion. So, King Yudhishthira did not commission and install big chemical factories, fertilizer factories. He did not give a license to Monsanto to put factories there to produce their hybrid varieties of seeds. None of those things he did. The only thing he did was rendering devotional service to Krishna. So you see, this is very important to understand. Actually, Prabhupada gives another example, his personal example. Prabhupada in 1898, Prabhupada appeared in 1896. So when Prabhupada was about 1.5 years old, 1.5 years old, in 1898, the bubonic plague broke out in India. So the bubonic plague at that time also, like even now, we have seen the COVID and all those things. Even at that time also, the bubonic plague was imported from China. China, all the kinds of ships used to come for trade to India. And from that, the plague-infested rats came into India, and that's how the plague spread in India. And the plague, and actually what happened at that time, the Britishers, they couldn't care less for the Indian natives. So the plague started spreading, actually not only in India, from the Chinese ships it went to other parts of the world also. So everywhere, like we saw during COVID, there were restrictions, there were isolations and all these kind of measures they started taking. And to some extent, the spread of the plague was controlled in other parts of the world. In India, the Britishers said, if we do all this isolation and these kind of things, the ships will stop coming to India and the trade will suffer. We will make heavy losses. So they said, no problem, let us not take any intervention, let things continue as it is. So they did not take any measure to prevent the contagion from spreading. Because of that, what happened? People started dying left, right and center. People were dropping dead right in the middle of the streets. In thousands. All over the world, if I remember the figures correctly, all over the world, these are all official figures, all over the world from the plague about 10 million people died. In India alone, all over the world it was about 10 million. In India alone, the figure was 10 times higher. That was the kind of figures, simply because no measures were taken to spread the plague, to prevent the spread of the plague. So, practically, all the Prabhupada says that Bombay became empty, Calcutta became empty, all the cities, people were dropping dead like flies. So the cities became almost empty. So at that time in Calcutta also, when the plague was spreading like this, nobody knew what to do. Plague is spreading left, right and center. People are dropping dead. Nobody knew what to do. There was nothing people could do because the administration is anyway negligent. They are not bothered. It didn't make a difference to them. And the common masses, what will they do? And there was no cure. There was no medicine. People were at their wits' end. They did not know what to do. Prabhupada says, at that time, one Babaji, he came to Calcutta and he started doing Sankirtan all over the streets in Calcutta. So because people did not know what to do, they were completely dumbfounded. They did not know where to turn for a solution. So when this Babaji brought this Sankirtan, Hare Krishna Mahamantra Sankirtan, Christians, Hindus, Muslims, Parsis, everybody joined in the Sankirtan. And this Sankirtan, they formed teams and they would go street to street doing Harinam. And they came to the street where Prabhupada's house was also there. And Prabhupada says, I remember I was about 1 or 1.5 years old. Sankirtan party came to my house. And I was just rising up to the knees of the men who were there, who had come, the Sankirtan party. And they started Sankirtan and I also started dancing in the Sankirtan. Prabhupada remembers this. And then, because of that Sankirtan, the whole plague all over India subsided. So, Prabhupada says, because of that Harinam, not because of any medical intervention, because of any vaccine, because of measures of taking, isolation and things like that, nothing was done. Just by Harinam, whole India was saved from the plague. But of course, Prabhupada cautions, we are not supposed to use the holy name for some material solution like that. If we do like that, your material problem may be solved, but that Harinam will not lead you to Krishna Prema. It will not, because it is an offense against the holy name to use the holy name for some material purpose. But fact is that in 1898, when the plague came, because of that Harinam Sankirtan, the plague subsided. So you see, again, even in the case of diseases, epidemics, etc., it's not our vaccines and medicines that actually work. We may do all those things. We have to do our duty, we have to take our measures. But unless Krishna's sanction is there, those medicines, vaccines and isolations and all those, wearing masks and hand sanitization, all these things you may do. If Krishna's sanction is not there, none of them will work. So we have to understand, behind our welfare, Krishna's sanction is very important. Without that, it will not work. And Krishna has made this world in such a way that whatever necessities we have, they can all be fulfilled in a very comfortable way from the natural resources. As it is mentioned here, Nadhya, rivers. Rivers also have a function to play. Samudra, oceans, they also have a role to play. We all need water for existence, right? Now that the Lord has created this earth in such a way, enough quantity of water is available for our use. Much more than what we require. Far greater quantity. But that water, water has to be stored somewhere in some reservoir. Now if you store the water just like that, what will happen? Algae will form, the water will become stale, it will not become usable. It will no more be potable water. So what Krishna has done, he has created a reservoir of water, huge reservoir of water, and filled it with salt, which is the ocean. And so the ocean is always clean and neat. You don't have algae formation, the water doesn't become stale. But then, because of the addition of salt, you cannot drink it. You cannot use it as it is. So Krishna has another arrangement. Krishna has created the system of evaporation by the sun. So the sun will take the ocean water, evaporate it, and distill it, and then that will come down as rainwater. You see? So the process of distillation, Krishna is built into this universe. Now that water, when it is evaporated and forms clouds and it rains, that water has to reach everywhere. And nature of water is it will always from a higher place to a lower place. That is why in all our houses what we do, we build a house, on top of that we have a water tank. So that from the tank, the water will flow by gravity, and in our kitchens, bathrooms, everywhere we'll get water. So now what Krishna has done, Krishna has created hills and mountains, and all the water that will fall by rain, it will collect on the top of the hills and the mountains. And from there the water will flow. And the water will flow so that everywhere the water gets spread and fresh water is available for us all through the year. This is Krishna's arrangement. Just like we pump water to a water tank and from there we draw the water, like that Krishna is using the sun to pump the water from the ocean and distill it and put it on top of the mountains, and those are the water tanks, and from there water is flowing everywhere to satisfy our needs. What a beautiful arrangement. So, Nadyah Samudrah. So, a river also has a certain purpose to fulfill. An ocean also has a certain purpose to fulfill. Girayaha, mountains, they also have a certain purpose to fulfill in meeting the necessities of the human beings. Savanaspati Virudaha, even the creepers, vegetables, they are also essential. Human beings need vegetables and the fruits to survive. Even if somebody is a hardcore meat eater, he cannot eat only meat. Some little meat will be there, and along with that, so many vegetables will be there. Without that, a human being cannot survive. He cannot survive only on meat. So, vegetables and fruits are essential. Without that, human beings cannot survive. Savanaspati Viruda, Palanti Oshadayaha, all kinds of drugs, means herbs, they are all available in plenty, which can provide all kinds of medicines to us. We don't need big pharmaceutical companies manufacturing drugs to cure the diseases. Not required. Already in nature, Krishna has provided all the herbs that are required. Prabhupada gives another example. Around 1931 or 1932, Prabhupada was suffering from a toothache, severe toothache. Prabhupada went to the dentist, and multiple visits. The dentist gave different medicines, did different things, not solving. Then Prabhupada's one servant was there. So the servant told Prabhupada that I know one Vaidji, I will take you to him. A local physician, native physician. So Prabhupada went with him, and Prabhupada says the servant took him somewhere deep into some forest. And in that forest, this native physician, this Vaidji was living there. So when Prabhupada explained his problem to him, he went into the forest, took out one root of some plant, brought it back, and told Prabhupada to keep it near the tooth which was paining. And Prabhupada kept that root in his tooth. And after a little while, some worms started coming out. And then that root, they got stuck to the root, and the root was removed. And after that, Prabhupada's pain got cured, toothache got cured. So simply keeping one root, the germs which were causing the toothache were pulled out, cured already. What the dentist with all his modern medicine and all these allopathic medicines could not do, one simple plant root did the job. So you see how there are so many herbs and creepers which are there in nature. Krishna has already put all those things into nature to satisfy all our needs, to meet our needs. There will be diseases, for that there is a cure. So everything we see in this material world, whatever we see in material nature, all of it has some use or the other for the human being. So human beings, if they utilize those resources, they can live peacefully, they can live prosperously, and at the same time, they can execute the ultimate purpose of human life, which is to go back to Godhead. So actually, Krishna has put in all these things into the earth, into this universe, so that we are not struggling to meet our needs. We will be able to comfortably satisfy our needs. At the same time, we will have enough time and peace of mind to be able to render devotional service. This is the purpose with which the material world is created. Prabhupada gives an example, just like you go to a prison, you go to a jail. If you go to a prison, you will find all criminals only there. But even though they are criminals, they have acted in violation of the law. They have disobeyed the government. Therefore, the government has put them into the prison. Still in the prison, all their food, clothing, accommodation, everything, all their needs, all their medical needs, everything will be taken care. So the government doesn't abandon the people. It still takes care of their needs. So similarly, this material manifestation is like a prison, where all those living entities who have rebelled against Krishna have been imprisoned. But although we have been imprisoned here, Krishna has made ample arrangements to ensure that we don't lack any of our needs from getting satisfied. All our needs can get satisfied. Our needs can get satisfied, but not our greed. So if we live in harmony with nature, according to Krishna's plan, we can live peacefully, we can execute Krishna consciousness and go back. But what happens? The problem is our hearts are filled with greed and lust. Why? Because the Srimad Bhagavatam mentions that Nashta Prayeshu Abhadreshu Nityam Bhagavata Seveya Bhagavatyuttama Shloke Bhaktir Bhavati Naishtiki. This is the purpose of the human life. That every day without fail, incessantly, if we render devotional service to Krishna, what will happen? Nashta Prayeshu Abhadreshu Nityam Bhagavata Seveya. Every day without fail, we have to render devotional service. When we do that, what will happen? Nashta Prayeshu Abhadreshu. All the contamination within the heart, the criminal mentality which is pervading our heart, to enjoy independent of Krishna, to disobey Krishna, that will get cured. And Nashta Prayeshu Abhadreshu Nityam Bhagavata Sevaya Bhagavatyuttama Shloke Bhaktir Bhavati Naishtiki. We will develop unflinching devotional service to Krishna. So when we develop unflinching devotional service to Krishna, what will happen? Tada rajastamo bhavaha kamalobhadayaschaye cheta yetai rana viddam stitam sattve prasidati. So when unflinching devotional service takes root in the heart, when we become fixed up in rendering devotional service to Krishna, what will happen? Tada rajastamo bhavaha. The influence of Rajoguna and Tamoguna, the influence of the modes of passion and ignorance will reduce. It will diminish. And how do we know that the influence of passion and ignorance are reducing? Tada rajastamo bhavaha kamalobhadayaschaye chetayetair anaviddham. The symptom is the symptom of the reduction, the symptom of the diminution of the modes of passion and ignorance is our greed and our lust, which has conquered our heart, will reduce. Their influence will reduce. So, if we cultivate the modes of passion and ignorance, what will happen? That means if we cultivate the modes of passion and ignorance, what will happen? Our heart will become more and more influenced by greed and lust, which is what we see in the material world today. People are not satisfied with what the earth is producing. They want to take out more. They want to extract more. They want to exploit the earth more. So what they do? You make chemical fertilizers and you make hybrid plants, hybrid seeds, so that we get more production. We want to, from the same earth, from the same soil, we want to take out more and more and more. You know, in the olden times, when these groundnut used to be there. So groundnut, they used to, in India, that's how they used to do. They used to take it and there would be oxen tied to one central pole and they will go around it. And they will keep walking so that they keep revolving. And into that you put these groundnuts and, or it may be mustard, whatever you want. You put into that. There will be a grinding, stone. And the oxen are walking around, that stone is turning and grinding. It will grind the nuts or whatever you have put into that, whether it is mustard or groundnuts or whatever. from that the oil will come. So you get oil out of that. You'll get groundnut oil, you'll get mustard oil. This is how oil used to be produced. And then after the oil has been removed, you get the waste. You get the remaining portion of the groundnut. So from that, if you analyze, only 40% of the oil would have come out. So, but then they would not try to further extract, because it's not possible to extract further oil from that groundnut by using the oxen, by that method. So they would take that balance, whatever is there, and feed it to the cows. And the cows would produce very nutritious milk because of that. So you see, everything had its use. Now, what is the thinking? Only 40% oil is coming out. Balance 60%, how to take it out? So create an extracting machine, put it through an extruder or extraction machine, and at high temperature, pull out the balance, another out of the 60%, at least another 50% pull it out. Only 10% is left. Now that is not worth feeding the cows also, and the cows cannot produce milk. So what to do with the cows? Send them to the slaughterhouse. So you see, human beings, when they increase the mode of Rajoguna and Tamoguna, their hearts will get conquered by greed and lust. They are not satisfied with what the earth is producing. They want to extract more, exploit more. And the result of that is what? People are becoming more and more dissatisfied. People are becoming more and more unhappy. The scientists are inventing newer and newer machines to exploit more and more, to extract more and more, to produce more and more with the same quantum of resources. But is the human being becoming satisfied and happy and peaceful? No. That happiness, that peace is evading the human being. Therefore, if we want real peace and happiness, it does not come by increasing the modes of passion and ignorance, resulting in increased greed and lust. Tada rajas tamo bhavaha kama lobhadayaschaye chetayetay ranaviddham. When we render devotional service to Krishna and lead a peaceful life in harmony with nature, not trying to exploit her and trying to extract more and more, what will happen? Chetayetay ranaviddham. Our heart will become freed from the influences of greed and lust, and Sthitam sattve prasidati. We will get elevated to the mode of goodness, sattva-guna. And when we get elevated to the mode of goodness, what will happen? Sthitam sattve prasidati. We will become happy. We will become pleased. Our hearts will become filled with bliss. So, if we pursue the path of increasing the modes of passion and ignorance by trying to exploit the rivers, build dams, and then make canals and take out all the water, so that the neighboring country or the neighboring state will have no water left. Rivers will run dry. Nadyaha samudra, and the oceans you exploit, put all the industrial effluents into the ocean, and all the waste products, whatever you are creating by your industrial civilization, put everything into the ocean. What will happen? All the fishes will die. Slowly the water will get contaminated. All kinds of problems will happen. So, Nadya, Samudra, Giraya, mountains. We want to exploit the mountains. We are not satisfied with the resources, minerals that the mountains are giving naturally. We want to do mining, put explosives, burst them open, extract more. What will happen? Eventually, it'll run dry. The mines will become empty, and then prices of the commodities will start increasing. Savanaspati Virudaha. We have forgotten that there are wonderful plants and trees and wonderful herbs which are there in nature. We want to make chemical medicines to cure the diseases. What is happening? The medicines will bring further more additional diseases. Instead of, it will cure the disease for which you are giving the medicine, but it will create another disease for you. And that is how you see modern medical science is going on advancing, finding out newer and newer drugs, and as a result, newer and newer diseases are coming out. This is the problem. So, phalanti oshadaya sarvaha kamam anrutu tasyavai. If we want to satisfy our needs, not our greed, then we have to avoid increasing the mode of passion and ignorance and trying to increase our lust and greed. On the other hand, we should be satisfied in whatever Mother Nature is providing us, and we engage in devotional service to Krishna. So the question comes, if we engage in devotional service to Krishna, how will our bellies get filled? How will grains get produced? How will fruits and vegetables be produced in sufficient quantity? We don't have to worry. Kama manrutu tasya vai. If we please Krishna by devotional service, automatically Mother Earth will become pleased, and she will produce much more than what we need. Abundantly you will get grains, fruits, vegetables. These are what are required for a human being's existence. All of this will be provided in abundance, profusely, like it is said here. Yudhishthira Maharaj, he did not focus on industrial development and creating industrial revolution and economic development. He did not do all those things. He focused on devotional service to Krishna, and as a result, Kama manrutu tasya vai. In every season, the rivers, oceans, hills, mountains, forests, creepers, active drugs, they paid their quota, tax quota to the king in profusion, much more than what is needed. So the secret to a happy and peaceful life is devotional service to Krishna. Unless Krishna is satisfied, we cannot expect to live a happy and peaceful life, and we cannot expect prosperity in the world. So, just like Vrindavan Chandra, simply by setting his glance upon that land, he immediately removed the influence of Kaliya. And just like Krishna, when Kaliya was there, he danced on its head and banished the Kaliya from Yamuna and removed all the poison, purified the Yamuna of the poison. Similarly, when again 5,000 years later, when Vrindavan Chandra set foot on that land, simply by his glance, all Kaliya's influence vanished and the place became verdant. It became fully green. So simply by rendering devotional service to Krishna, all our needs will get fulfilled. We don't have to worry, if I don't have industries, if I don't have chemicals, how will earth produce enough grains and fruits? We don't have to worry. The key is to satisfy Krishna. If we satisfy Krishna, everything will be provided, much more than we need, and with very little endeavor. With very little endeavor, we can achieve full prosperity, so that the extra time that is available can be spent in executing Krishna consciousness. So these are some of the points which we can understand from today's verse. If there are any questions or comments, we can discuss. So Krishna's satisfying Krishna, by satisfying Krishna, we can become satisfied. Otherwise, if we independently try to satisfy ourselves, it's not possible. That is why the Bhagavatam also gives the example. We are connected with Krishna like the limbs of the body are connected to the stomach. Unless we provide food to the stomach, the limbs will not have enough energy. Or like the root of a tree is connected to the rest of the tree. You pour water and manure to the root, then only the rest of the tree will get nourished. Similarly, we are also connected to Krishna. So if we don't satisfy Krishna, eventually we will see all our attempts will dry up, and we will feel that vacuum in our lives. That peace and satisfaction we are striving for will not come. So therefore, an intelligent person tries to water the root, which is Krishna, and if we do that, then everything else is taken care of. All right? So we'll stop here. Grantharaj Srimad Bhagavatam ki jai, Vishwaguru Srila Prabhupada ki jai, Nitai Gaur Premanande Hari.